often more than once. Should you grow tired of Saro's baubles and trinkets, it would be an honor to host you at the House of the Undying. You are always welcome, Mother of Dragons.
In A Clash of Kings, while Daenerys is in Quarth, Daenerys gets what I feel is the most telling prophecy of this entire series. The show version of the House of the Undying was watered down immensely and changed drastically, but what happened in the books gives us a lot to think about in reference to what the future holds. People have many different interpretations of what's going on at the House of the Undying, but on this, my interpretation is different than everyone else's. I'm not saying I'm right and they're wrong. I'm just saying I look at it kind of different. Before we get into her visions and the chants and the shade of the evening and all of those things, let's first address the blue-lipped warlocks of Quarth and who they are. Once they were mighty, but now they are as ludicrous as those feeble old soldiers who boast of their prowess long after strength and skill have left them. They read their crumbling scrolls, drink shade of the evening until their lips turns blue, and hint of dread powers, but they are hollow husks compared to those who went before. But let's move on to the actual visions that she has. When she enters the House of the Undying, she is given specific instructions. There is only specifically one way she can move through the House of the Undying without being trapped forever. So it's very intricate, and there is a pattern that she must follow. When you enter, you will find yourself in a room with 4 doors, the one you have come through and 3 others. Take the door to your right. Each time, the door to your right. If you should come upon a stairwell, climb. Never go down, and never take any door but the first door to your right. He's giving Daenerys a pattern, and the pattern is significant. The presence of a pattern is what is significant to my theory. Remember the word pattern as I continue this. I will read you the visions and then I will tell you what they are. In one room, a beautiful woman sprawled naked on the floor while 4 little men crawled over her. They had radish pointed faces and tiny pink hands, like the servitor who had brought her the glass of shade. One was pumping between her thighs, another savaged her breasts, worrying at the nipples with his wet red mouth, tearing and chewing. Farther on, she came upon a feast of corpses, savagely slaughtered. The feasters lay strewn across overturned chairs and hackled trestle tables, asprawl in pools of congealing blood. Some had lost limbs, even heads. In a throne above them sat a dead man with the head of a wolf. He wore an iron crown and held a leg of lamb in one hand, as a king might hold a scepter, and his eyes followed Dany with mute appeal. She fled from him, but only as far as the next open door. I know this room, she thought. She remembered those great wooden beams and the carved animal faces that adorned them. And there, outside the window, a lemon tree. The sight of it made her heart ache with longing. It is the house with the red door, the house in Bravos. No sooner had she thought it than old Sir Willem came into the room, leaning heavily on his stick. "Little princess, there you are," he said in a gruff kind of voice. "Come," he said, "come to me, my lady. You're home now. You're safe now." His big wrinkled hand reached for her, soft as old leather, and Dany wanted to take it and hold it and kiss it. She wanted that as much as she had ever wanted anything. Her foot edged forward, and she thought, he's dead. He's dead, that sweet old bear. He died a long time ago. She backed away and ran. Finally, a great pair of bronze doors appeared to her left, grander than the rest. They swung open as she neared, and she had to stop and look. Beyond loomed a cavernous stone hall, the largest she had ever seen. The skulls of dead dragons looked down from its walls. Upon a towering barbed throne sat an old man in rich robes, an old man with dark eyes and long silver gray hair. "Let him be king over charred bones and cooked meat," he said to a man below him. "Let him be the king of ashes." Drogon shrieked, his claws digging through silk and skin, but the king on his throne never heard, and Dany moved on. Viserys was her first thought. the next time she paused, but a second glance told her otherwise. The man had her brother's hair, but he was taller, and his eyes were dark indigo rather than lilac. "Aegon," he said to a woman nursing a newborn babe in a great wooden bed. "What better name for a king?" "Will you make a song for him?" the woman asked. "He has a song," the man replied. "He is the prince that was promised, and his is the song of ice and fire." He looked up when he said it, and his eyes met Dany's, and it seemed as if he saw her standing there beyond the door. "There must be one more," he said. "Did you notice a pattern?" "I do. Her visions are shown in a sequence of future to past, and they are in order. Let's start with the last one and work our way backwards. She is shown the birth of Aegon, Rhaegar's son, with Elia Martell. Aegon was born in late 281 or early 282. Then she is shown her father, the Mad King, with his Burn Them All. This happened in 283 AC. Next, she is shown the House with the Red Door with Sir Willem Darry. Daenerys was born in 284. Sir Willem died when she was 5, so this is dated about 285 to 289 AC. Then she sees the Red Wedding. This is an event that doesn't happen until 299 AC, and at the time she sees it, it hasn't happened yet. Then she sees a woman with dwarves raping on her. Now, a lot of people have thought that this was the War of Five Kings. I even thought that at one time until I realized the pattern. It can't be the War of Five Kings because firstly, there are only 4 dwarves, not 5. And secondly, because it's not in order. It's not shown until after the Red Wedding. And after the Red Wedding, Robb and Renly were dead. What I think it actually shows is the apocalypse. The woman is the world, Mother Earth, and the dwarves are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse sent to wreak havoc on the world. But now that we see that there is a pattern, we can move on to other visions and find the patterns in those as well. Finally, the stair opened to her right. A set of wide wooden doors had been thrown open. They were fashioned of ebony and weirwood, the black and white grain swirling and twisting in the strange interwoven patterns. They were very beautiful, yet somehow frightening. Beyond the doors was a great hall and a splendor of wizards. So Drogon doesn't like the place. He flies from Dany's shoulder and perches on the door of weirwood and ebony and starts to bite it. So she's in the audience chamber basically with sketchy, creepy people, and they're giving her prophecy. It's in this very hall where we get what I think is the complete answer to how Daenerys' Song of Ice and Fire will end. They call her Child of Three and Child of Storm. 3 heads has the dragon, which is pretty straightforward. She is Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen. The 3-headed dragon is the sigil of her house. And furthermore, she is one of 3 of the children that Rhaella and Aerys had. But let's look for a pattern. 3 fires must you light, 1 for life and 1 for death and 1 to love. 3 mounts must you ride, 1 to bed, 1 to dread, and 1 to love. 3 treasons will you know, once for blood, once for gold, and once for love. She didn't understand. Help me, show me. So she doesn't understand what they're talking about these fires and these treasons and these mounts. So she asked them to show her. Then this happens. Phantoms shivered through the murk, images in indigo. Viserys screamed as the molten gold ran down his cheeks and filled his mouth. A tall lord with copper skin and silver gold hair stood beneath the banner of a fiery stallion. A burning city behind him. Rubies flew like drops of blood from the chest of a dying prince, and he sank to his knees in the water and with his last breath murmured a woman's name. Mother of dragons, daughter of death. Glowing like a sunset, a red sword was raised in the hand of a blue-eyed king who cast no shadow. A cloth dragon swayed on poles amidst the cheering crowd. From a smoking tower, a great stone beast took wing, breathing shadow fire. Mother of dragons, slayer of lies. Her silver was trotting through the grass to a darkling stream beneath a sea of stars. A corpse stood at the prow of a ship, eyes bright in his dead face, gray lips smiling sadly. A blue flower grew from a chink in a wall of ice and filled the air with sweetness. Mother of dragons, bride of fire. So she's told about these fires that she must light, mounts she must ride, and treasons she will know. But she's also given titles and shown images. So let me show you the pattern. The first set of images she is shown is Viserys' death, what Rhaego would have been, and the death of Rhaegar. Then she is given the title Daughter of Death. Next, she is given the title Slayer of Lies. We have Stannis, the Mummer's Dragon, and the Smoking Tower and the Great Stone Beast. That title is Slayer of Lies. Next, we have the title Bride of Fire. We have her bride gift from Drogo, her silver, a corpse on the prow of a ship, and a blue flower growing in a wall of ice. I believe each title and its images has to do with each fire, mount, and treason. It's kind of difficult to explain, so I'm going to show you. Lighting each fire, she must slay a lie, be a daughter of death, a bride of fire, she would know a treason, and a mount. So when we speak about treasons, we assume these are betrayals that Dany will commit, but they could just as easily be treasons she could commit against other people. They don't have to be one or the other, they could be both. So I think we should use an open mind when we look at that. But let me break everything down so you understand the pattern. So the fire for love, the mount to love, and the treason for blood go as follows. It has to do with the first image in each sequence. So Viserys' death, Stannis, and her silver have to do with the treason for blood, the mount to bed, and the fire for life. The fire for life is undoubtedly Khal Drogo's funeral pyre where the dragons were born. The mount to bed is definitely her silver horse that she is given by Khal Drogo as her bride gift. Now, things get sketchy at the treason for blood. The treason for blood could be a treason committed against her, Mirri Maz Duur, but I'm more inclined to believe the treason for blood was Viserys. Viserys was willing to sell his sister to Dothraki savages for his blood right, his birthright, the crown.
I would let his whole tribe fuck you. All 40,000 men and their horses too, if that's what it took.
In A Dance with Dragons, when she dreams of Viserys, it goes like this. Viserys looked just as he had the last time she'd seen him. His mouth was twisted in anguish. His hair was burnt and his face was black and smoking where the molten gold had ran down across his brow and cheeks and into his eyes. You are dead, Dany said. Murdered, though his lips never moved. Somehow she could hear his voice, whispering in her ear. You never mourned me, sister. It's hard to die unmourned. I loved you once. Once, he said, so bitterly it made her shudder. You were supposed to be my wife, to bear me children with silver hair and purple eyes, to keep the blood of the dragon pure. I took care of you. I taught you who you were. I fed you. I sold our mother's crown to keep you fed. You hurt me. You frightened me. Only when you woke the dragon. I loved you. You sold me. You betrayed me. No, you were the betrayer. You turned against me, against your own blood. They cheated me, your horsey husband and his stinking savages. They were cheats and liars. They promised me a golden crown and gave me this. Viserys actually makes a good point when he says, no, you were the betrayer. You turned against me, against your own blood. So it can go either way, and either way, it fits the pattern. The treason for blood was Viserys. The mount to bed is the image of her silver. Her silver was trotting through the grass to a darkling stream beneath the sea of stars. This was her bride gift from Drogo. So after her wedding, she actually mounts this horse. Afterward, she could not say how far or how long they had ridden, but it was full dark when they stopped at a grassy place beside a small stream. So what she's shown is where they first had sex. This is where she first had sex with Drogo. Then there is the fire for life. According to the pattern that has been established, the fire for life has to do with Stannis. It has to do with this image. Glowing like a sunset, a red sword was raised in the hand of a blue-eyed king who cast no shadow. And the fire for life, I guess it's gonna have to slay a lie. So the fire for life is Drogo's funeral pyre and the birth of dragons. The dragons are given life, and guess what? A lie is slayed. The lie that Stannis is Azor Ahai. In the Azor Ahai prophecy, it says, Azor Ahai shall be born again amidst smoke and salt to wake dragons out of stone. Daenerys does this, and when she does this, she slays the lie that Stannis is Azor Ahai. Let's look at it again, so the pattern can be well established. With each fire, treason, and mount, she will be a daughter of death, a slayer of lies, and a bride of fire. So daughter of death implies she is being born into who she's supposed to be because of the people who have died. In this case, it was Viserys. Viserys styled himself as king of the Seven Kingdoms. Viserys' death made Daenerys heir to the Iron Throne. Daenerys then took on Viserys' role of trying to pull together armies and go back to Westeros. This becomes Daenerys' title now because of Viserys' death. So one more time, she becomes Drogo's bride of fire and rides her silver to bed him after Viserys commits his treason for blood, or before she commits her treason for blood against him. Drogo dies, she lights his funeral pyre for life, waking dragons from stone, slaying the lie that Stannis is Azor Ahai, and after Viserys' death, she inherits the title Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, and she also inherits his destiny to raise armies and head for Westeros. The pattern is established. So according to the pattern, the next set coincide with each other. So the treason for gold, the mount to dread, and the fire for death, the Mummer's dragon, Rhaegal, and a corpse on the prow of the ship, all of these things coincide with each other. All of these things make a cycle of events that will slay a lie, daughter of death. So there's another title for Daenerys, and a bride of fire. We're going to use both books and show. At least the parts of the show I think will be in the books, but the show is much past the books, so we're just gonna kind of blend them together. So let's start with the obvious, the Mount to Dread. The Mount to Dread is Drogon. Drogon is said to be reborn Balerion the Black Dread. Aegon rode Balerion the Black Dread. It was said that Vhagar's breath was so hot that it could melt a knight's armor and cook the man inside. That Meraxes swallowed horses whole and Balerion. His fire was as black as his scales, his wings so vast that whole towns were swallowed up in their shadow when he passed overhead. The Dothraki looked at her hatchlings uneasily. The largest of her three was shiny black, his scales slashed with streaks of vivid scarlet to match his wings and horns. Khaleesi, Agu murmured. There sits Balerion come again. So we are established that Drogon does look like Balerion. So she also dreaded him. She was afraid when she went to mount him. His eyes were molten. I am looking into hell, but I dare not look away. She had never been so certain of anything. If I run from him, he will burn me and devour me. In the smoldering red pits of Drogon's eyes, Dany saw her own reflection, how small she looked, how weak and frail and scared. I cannot let him see my fear. The Mount to Dread is Drogon. Then we have the treason for gold. I went back and forth about the treason for gold being Jorah, being the Green Grace, being Brown Ben Plum, or Hisdar, but I think it's Hisdar. The gold could be the literal gold he is making off the fighting pits reopening, or it could be just that he's working for the Harpy, he's getting gold from Yunkai. But when she marries Hisdar, the night that she consummates their marriage, she has queer dreams of fire. And it seems to hint at the cycle beginning. He lies to her and plots and schemes. He brings peace for 90 days. But how could he do this if he was not working with the Harpy, or the Harpy didn't at least want him to become king? He gets the fighting pits reopened, and on this day, Hisdar offers Dany Locust. These locusts are poisoned, and Hizdahr is the catalyst for the Mount to dread. So Drogon comes flying into the fighting pit, probably sensing like that his mother's in danger because she could eat these poisoned locusts at any time, which forces Daenerys to mount him and meet up with the Dothraki. So while all of this is happening, Victarion is in Slaver's Bay to wed Daenerys, and he has the dragon horn. So we have the image of a corpse on the prow of a ship, gray lips smiling sadly. So Victarion to me is definitely this guy. Victarion knows that Daenerys has wed and plans on making her a widow. He's shown as a corpse because, let's be honest, there's some blood magic going on that Mokoro used on Victarion to heal his hand. Not only that, but he possesses Dragonbinder. And the man that blows the horn will die. So he could be like a walking dead man. But in the show, we had Theon and Yara bring Daenerys to Westeros. But in the books, it will be Victarion who takes her to Westeros, and Victarion will ultimately die. It's also important to note that Bride of Fire could also mean Victarion. Daenerys is convinced that she needs two husbands like Aegon and his sister wives. The fire for death is going to be the fire where she burns the coals. She lights the fire to kill them. This is very important to recognize that in the books it probably will wind up happening differently, but I still feel this is 100% going to happen in the books in some fashion. And it's also important to realize this will be some blood magic ritual because Daenerys is not immune to fire, and at any time she seemed immune to fire, blood magic was in play. When she kills the Khals, she united all of the Khalasar into a single Khalasar, and she becomes the daughter of death again, and she inherits her son's title, the Stallion who mounts the world. So Daenerys will be on a ship going to Westeros, and she will slay the lie of the Murmur's dragon, aka Aegon. So again, Daenerys marries Hizdahr. Hizdahr betrays her for gold. She mounts Drogon, kills the Khals, becomes the stallion who mounts the world. Victarion is a dead man waiting to take her to Westeros to slay the lie that Aegon is Rhaegar's son. Next, we have the fire to love, the mount to love, and the treason for love. Rhaegar, the stone beast, taking wing, breathing shadow fire, the blue rose, and the chink in the wall of ice. This is where it gets crazy. The chink in the wall of ice is Jon, Lyanna's blue rose, and the wall. Come on, that's Jon Snow all day. Bride of Fire, she will be marrying Jon, which we already see is going to happen. So the mount to love, I also think could be Jon. I mean, what else can she mount other than Jon at this point? Like, could the mount to love be Viserion? Maybe, I'm not sure. Would she steal him somehow from the Night King? I mean, there is a lot of mystery to Viserion. He's blood of the dragon. She's blood of the dragon. Dragon blood runs deep, but dragon bonds also run deep, and that deserves an entire video on its own. But I do think that the stone beast taking wing, breathing shadow fire is Viserion. But in the books, I'm not sure it will be Viserion per se, but maybe some kind of ice dragon or some kind of opposing dragon. Melisandre has a vision that seems to be very similar to Viserion and Eastwatch falling in a vision in Dance with Dragons. Then the towers by the sea, crumbling as the dark tide came sweeping over them, rising from the depths. Shadows in the shape of skulls, skulls that turned to mist, bodies locked together in lust, writhing and rolling and clawing through curtains of fire, great winged shadows wheeled against a hard blue sky. Then the fire to love, I believe, is going to be a blood sacrifice. The other two fires were blood sacrifices, so I don't see why the third fire would be any different. Remember, this is a pattern. The blood sacrifice could be the forging of Lightbringer, but I don't think so because I don't think there's going to be a Lightbringer. I think Jon is going to die, and Daenerys is going to do some blood magic ritual to bring him back. This fits the treason for love because Jon does not want to be brought back.
If I do, if I fall, don't bring me back.
I'll have to try.
I'm ordering you not to bring me back.
I am not your servant, Jon Snow.
You're in my camp. I'm the commander.
In the books, I'm not sure how she would do this, but in the show, I believe it would be through Beric Dondarrion. I mean, Beric's been dead for a long time. He's here for a reason, and Beric will give Jon the last kiss at Daenerys' command or without Daenerys stopping it. However it winds up happening, I believe it will cost Daenerys something, possibly even her baby. But when it's all said and done, it will slay the lie that anyone else is the prince who was promised, because that title belongs to Daenerys, daughter of death. But what is your interpretation of the fires, treasons, and mounts? Do you see the pattern, or have I been drinking too much shade of the evening? As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that supports me on Patreon. Please click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join the Sweet Summer Family Wolfpack. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.